to Monica and everyone at the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights here in the San Francisco Bay Area, to all of the honorees, and if I can say to Dr. Morris, thank you for the work that you do for people who will be the leaders of this country tomorrow. They may not be treated as such, but when people come to their aid, they begin to have that esteem they need to really shine. And so thank you for what you do. You deservedly have been honored tonight. So thank you for everything you're doing. To Patrick Thompson for his work as the chair of the Lawyers Committee on Civil Rights, thank you, and phenomenal turnout to you and the team that made it possible to have such a successful event. Keep doing the texting and putting in those dollars, right? We thank you. To all the pro bono award winners, congratulations. And if I could also ask that we thank those who actually are working as well as the team here, the hotel workers who are serving us and picking up our plates, if we could thank them for the work that they do this evening. I saw Monica's family as we were in the break during dinner, and she mentioned that all but her daughter had joined her up here, and so we saw her two sons and her husband. But I want to give Ambika a shout out. Where is the family? Ambika, where are you? There, over here. There she is. I see her. She's raising her hand. My understanding is you've come to 3 of these dinners, and you are now one of the stalwarts. I suspect you've texted as well and sent in whatever you could to the organization to help your mom. But I want to thank you for being one of those who's committed to this event and committed to civil rights at such an early age. So thank you for becoming a justice warrior of the future. I think, any time you can receive an award, this Living the Dream Award, and be anywhere within throwing distance of the name of Martin Luther King, you got to feel like your day has been made, if not your life. And so I want to say thank you for that. And if you think about it, in a way, if you had to plug dream and the place of dreams into a GPS search, my suspicion is about the best place you would turn up on that GPS search would be California. We graduate more people from college than any other place in the nation. We create more startups than any other place in the nation. If you go to a UC system university and you start off in the 20% lowest economic ladder, as most of those minority students do, within 10 years you are in the top 20% of the economic ladder. And if I could put it another way, a third of all those minority and low-income students figure out a way to be out earning the vast majority of Americans, even though they never had the luxury to see it done through their parents and grandparents. And so we understand what California can offer so many people. It can be a dream. But as we've heard from all the work that has to be done by the Lawyers Committee and all those pro bono attorneys, it just doesn't happen. We all have to work at it. Maybe that's why we have sued the Trump administration, Monica, if I can correct you, not 65 times, 75 times so far. Maybe that's why we initiated the first desegregation lawsuit in California in 50 years, just over the Golden Gate Bridge in Sausalito, where we found the Sausalito Marin School District was discriminating against black and brown school children in the placement in their public schools. Or maybe it was not far from here in Stockton, California, where we got the Stockton Unified School District to stop its police force from arresting those mostly young men and women of color, instead of trying to provide the type of structure and instruction that they needed to achieve instead of being arrested. Or maybe it's because we are today, as we speak, overseeing the San Francisco Police Department's efforts to reform its patterns and practice out in the field. Or perhaps it's the case that we took on 3 weeks ago in Los Angeles, where we are going to review the way the Los Angeles Police Department conducts its affairs in logging people into what is called the California gang system, where we find that on occasion people as young as 2 years of age were being classified as gang members. Or maybe it's the work that we did to stop the Trump administration from terminating the DACA program for 800,000 Dreamers in America. And we await the Supreme Court decision on that case. Or perhaps it's the work we did to stop the federal government from placing kids in cages. Or maybe it's the work we've done to allow any woman under the Affordable Care Act to have her rights to receive birth control services that were going to be denied by the Trump administration. Or maybe it's the work we're doing to make sure that we don't go backwards when it comes to the clean car standards that keep our air cleaner than it otherwise would be. Or perhaps it's the work that our California Department of Justice Environmental Justice Bureau is now doing. I started that bureau 2 years ago to try to help the communities that are first and worst hit by pollution. They don't have to wait till 2050. They're getting hit right now in their communities. And today we are standing up for many of these mostly distressed, low-income minority communities, because when it comes time to fight against some project or some developer who's not willing to respect their rights under our environmental laws, it helps to have the state of California behind them with their back. And so whether it was the case we filed last week against the San Bernardino County Airport Authority for moving forward a project that would pollute the air and bring hundreds of more semi-vehicle trucks of pollution daily into the communities that are surrounded by schools, or maybe it was the case that we filed a year and a half ago against Arvin, the little town in Arvin over by Bakersfield, because they wanted to take a leap and stop the oil companies from actually drilling rigs within sight of schools and neighborhoods, where they won a victory by asking and getting a 300-foot setback for that construction. Most of us would say nowhere near us, but 300 was a victory for the little town of Arvin, and we stepped in to help on that. Any way you look at it, what we're doing is simply saying justice is for all of us. And I say that not as the 33rd Attorney General of the state of California. I say that as the son of immigrants, the first in my family to have a chance to walk through the doors of a university. I say that as someone who grew up watching a man who had no more than a chance to go to the 6th grade and have to work as a construction worker most of his life, and a mother who came from Guadalajara, Jalisco, Mexico when she was 18, when she married my father, and was denied opportunities beyond early school and became a clerical worker. Somehow they figured out a way to get 4 kids to go to college or serve in the military. Somehow they figured out how to buy a small home. And somehow they figured out a way to live out the rest of their years in retirement. But here's the problem. This is 2020, and there's some people in D.C. who think this is still 1920. And we have a fight in front of us. And so, in the words of Martin Luther King, we must have audacious faith in the future. Or perhaps, as a dear friend for 24 years in Congress and a civil rights icon who walked with Martin Luther King, Congressman John Lewis, would always say to us in our House Democratic Caucus, if you want to fight and win, you got to get in the way. You got to cause trouble. Good trouble. Good trouble. Or maybe it's just the way the Dreamers, the DACA Dreamers, say it publicly, even though they do it at risk of being deported, when they say, publicly, I am undocumented and unafraid. It's time to stand up. It's time to punch above our weight class. It's time to believe in the words of Dr. King. And it's time to never do mild. This is not a time to believe that you'll get to tiptoe to success. And so I say to those of you who believe in the dream, I say to those of you who understand the fight that went into composing those words by Dr. King, and I say to those of you who believe that someone like Mbika could become the next of those leaders, it is up to us to show that we've got the fight. And it is up to us to show the next generation like Mbika that we know how to win. Because this fight has only begun. And November 2020 is part of that fight, but it goes on way beyond that. If you continue to give me these kinds of awards, I will continue to sue the Trump administration 75 times. I was never meant to do this. I was not supposed to be here. But then again, just as my dad couldn't walk into a restaurant because of the signs that said no dogs, Negroes, or Mexicans allowed, he got to walk into the White House and meet the President of the United States. Not this president, but a previous president. And I will tell you, it is our chance to make those dreams come true for everyone like my parents, everyone who fights pro bono or through public service. But mostly, I hope we do it, Monica, for Mbika, because she is going to be the one that takes this experience and recognizes, oh, I got a lot I get to do. Thank you all very much.